Hello, and thank you for tuning in. You're looking at the Dr. Sheila Show, and I am your host, Dr. Sheila, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality. And today we have an amazing guest with us, an amazing topic, and I think that you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. Today's topic is living life in perpetual motion. And our guest today is Mr. Cappriccieo Scates. Cappriccieo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited. So let me ask you first of all, because most people call you Cap. Is it okay if I call you Cap?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's fine.
So please tell us who you are, what you do, and all about you.
Well, again, I'm Cappriccieo Scates. I started out as a drummer, actually. I went from that to playing a little bass guitar. From there, I started doing independent promotions as far as radio, retail, club, street promotions, working for Sony, Universal, Tommy Boy, Atlantic, Death Row, a bunch of labels in the Virginia, D.C., Baltimore market.
Wow.
From there, I got an opportunity to go to Rough House Columbia Records, where I did national radio promotions. So I promoted Criss Cross, The Fugees, Cypress Hill. From there, I started managing songwriters and producers, some of whose credits include Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Nivea, Charlie Wilson, etc.
I'm going to just say, wow. Okay, keep going.
I wrote a book on artist management called 10 Steps to Successfully Managing Recording Artists. I actually have a new book coming out this year called My Music, My Business.
Wow.
And from there, I moved to here to Atlanta to run the Atlanta CSAC office. I was just there for under 7 years.
Okay.
Got the opportunity to go to work with Dr. Creflo Dollar and Pastor Taffy Dollar to run their label Arrow Universal Records, where I signed gospel greats Kim Burrell and Ann Nesby. And I'm now president and CEO of a label called My Trail Records. So.
Yes. And I'm like, wow, again. So I told you were going to thoroughly enjoy this show. You have done so much. I mean, you could probably go on because I know it's a couple of things that you left out.
Sure.
You are an ambassador.
Yes.
So tell us about that, please.
I had the opportunity of being selected as an ambassador to the UN ambassador to Vienna this year. So that's been a remarkable opportunity. I've gone to Vienna already and sat in at the UN and got indoctrinated to that whole process. So really, it's more about, thank you, it's more about providing goodwill and doing something great inside of the community.
It's a major accomplishment, and you just like left that out. So I had to mention that. So congratulations. Definitely a major accomplishment. So in everything that you have accomplished, and I know that there's so much more, but it's a lot. And you have to be very proud of that, and you should be. So let me ask you this question, though, because in everything that we do, all of us go through some challenges in life.
Absolutely.
So could you kind of tell us about, some of the challenges that you perhaps have faced in your career and or personal life, whatever you like to share, and how you were able to overcome some of those challenges? Well,
I think for me, the biggest challenges has been really understanding the order of God, family, and work. And I think early on in my career, I did not understand that. And I figured it was in this big pot, you stir it up, and don't be talking to me about no God, no none of that stuff. I'm doing what I want to do. But the biggest lesson I've learned over the last several years is that you have to prioritize, you have to put things in order and in proper perspective. I literally had 3 goals when I got in the music business. One was to be able to afford to take my kids to Disneyland. The other was to get a record company tour jacket because I saw my friend with one and I thought it was cool.
Jacket.
Yes. Okay. And then I wanted to be able to call a record label and someone on the other end would answer the phone and know my name. And so I far surpassed those goals, as shallow as they may have seemed. But the one thing I did not realize is that I would eventually be able to afford to take my kids to Disneyland. But I made it to Disneyland and I made it by myself.
By yourself.
Unfortunately, I literally called my son and I said, hey, let's go to Disneyland. And he said, Dad, I'm 20. And I'm like, you're 20. Like, I didn't even realize that time had gone by because I was so focused on trying to win a Grammy, American Music Award, get another plaque on my wall. And meanwhile, there was some distance being created just, as a result. Although every pencil, every backpack, every pair of shoes they got, in essence, I was there. But I wasn't really there because if you talk to them, they'll say my dad was never there.
Not here.
So, that I literally went down, I did a presentation at the GMWA, the Gospel Music Workshop of America. I did my presentation and I got back to my hotel room and I cried like a baby. Because I made it, but I made it by myself. So I missed that part. So a lot of what I try to relate to artists and people that are just sort of working and trying to keep the lights on, so to speak, is you have to put that stuff in order. Because you're going to get, if you're good, you're going to win a Grammy. That's what they do when they're good. But then how do you maintain it? Because getting it's not the problem, it's maintaining it.
Maintaining it.
Wife, mansion, Bentley. Don't maintain it. Divorce, foreclosed, repo. So it's not about getting it. It's about maintaining it.
Wow, that's an excellent point that you have made. And it goes definitely right in line with what we're talking about today, you know, living life in perpetual motion.
Absolutely.
We are going to get into a little bit more of that. We're going to take a quick break. I really appreciate you sharing some, you know, of your personal challenges.
Sure.
That we pretty much most of us have faced, some of them, or if not all of them.
Absolutely.
Or something totally different, because we all go through different things in our lives. But it's just about how you manage that and how you process through it.
Right.
So we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Cappriccieo Scates when we return from break. You are tuned in to the Dr. Sheila Show, and I am your host, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality. Hello and welcome back. You're tuned into the Dr. Sheila Show, and I am your host, Dr. Sheila, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality. And today my guest is Mr. Cappriccieo Scates, Ambassador Cappriccieo Scates, and we are talking today about living life in perpetual motion. Before we went to break, Cappriccieo was basically telling us about some of the life challenges you've had and how you were able to overcome those. Can you kind of give us a little bit more detail about that? And now you're living life in perpetual motion. Explain to us also what exactly that means.
I think for the most part, that really is about like living your truth, whatever that is, and being true to yourself and surrounding yourself with people that love you and that are genuinely concerned about you and just being who you are. For me, the last couple years, it's been more about that. It's like doing the things that make me happy, not worrying about what people think about me, what people say, those things that generally hold us back. So I think it's really, when we talk about perpetual motion, we're talking about the sweeping hand of a clock, right? And it's always just moving. And so I think you have to live in a way that you're just happy and you're confident and you're okay with whoever you are, whoever that might be.
Whatever that is, whatever that means to you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how did you get to that point from, you said, divorce and repossession, and what was the third thing? I forgot, you said 3 of them.
Wife, mansion, Bentley. So repo, divorce, and foreclosed.
Repo, divorce, and foreclosure. How were you that's 3 heavy hitters there. How were you able to overcome those and now get to the point where you are living life in perpetual motion? And perhaps you can give some of the tips for the viewers on how, because you know some people may be thinking like, oh, they're going through some of those 3 things that you just mentioned. How can they get to the point where they get it all kind of ironed out and they're living their life in perpetual motion? Well,
I think you have to find your truth. You have to find your happy. And it's not always in material things. For some people, they need those things. But at the end of the day, it's more about sort of the universe, the law of reciprocity. What you put out is what you get back. The one commonality, no matter what religion you study with, is that they all believe in what you put out is what you get back. Now, they may disagree on various things, but they have those fundamentals in place that they subscribe to, so to speak. So I think it's, for example, if you breathe in, you inhale, right? If you inhale, you can't just inhale and not give back. If you don't give back, you'll pass out.
This is true.
You know what I mean? So you have to, I think the universe is set up that way. We breathe out carbon dioxide for the trees produce oxygen, so everything's set on a give and take.
It's a give and take.
Yeah, so I think that's really where it is. You have to find, you know, your truth and your happiness, and I think ultimately that's how you get to that perpetual motion place.
Okay. So, you know, you are very humble and very down to earth. I mean, I'm sitting next to an ambassador here and someone who has produced, you know, major artists and still doing amazing things in the music industry. But you are so down to earth. What do you contribute that to?
Well, for me, I've learned early on is that the key to success is consistency and humility. And so I stay humble and stay consistent. When I wrote my book, quite honestly, I was being selfish. I wrote the book trying to get the accolades, thinking that I'm going to write this book and, you know, the news reporters will call me up and they'll want to know what my thoughts are about the music industry. And, you know, Billboard magazine will call me up and all these things will happen. And what actually happened was just the opposite. I told people, I would say, read the book, tell me what you think. And they would say, man, thank you, I appreciate what you said. And I'm like, did you read the whole thing, even about the author? And they're like, yeah, I read everything. And I'm like, you're not telling me how great I am? And so what I learned from writing the book was that it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the gift that I was given to willingly give back to others. And when I took that perspective and began to understand that everything that I attempted to get, then it started to come to me. So when I did finally go on nationwide television, I didn't want to be on nationwide television because I was nervous. They said to me, in 10, and I'm like, oh, in 5, and I'm like, this is live, yeah.
You weren't ready for it.
Viewers. No, because now I'm like, oh God, am I going to say the right thing? Now I don't want this. So, you know, Billboard magazine called me up, and if you ever see that article, I'm on there talking about, man, I want to do something for the community. I'm not saying nothing about myself. So I think for me, that was the biggest lesson in humility, is that it really has nothing to do with you. It's about the gift that you was given to willingly give back to others. And everything that you want from that perspective, it comes to you because of your goodwill, so to speak. So
I think that's a really good tip that you make. I think that, you know, even in my own personal life, you know, it's never been about me. And I think that that's why I've been, you know, blessed, and all of the blessings that are bestowed upon me are because it's a selfless thing that I'm trying to do. And I think that if you get out of the way of yourself, you can not only accomplish your goals, but you can touch other people in a positive way to inspire them. And that's what we try to do here in the Dr. Sheila Show as well. Let me ask you, for right now, what are some of the goals and aspirations that you have? Because you've accomplished so many things. What are some of the goals, or maybe just one or two of them that you currently have?
When I think now, it's really about doing something greater than myself. And that's my goal. My grandson, I asked him a couple years ago, I said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I thought he would say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a scientist, I want to be an astronaut. He said, I want to run your company.
Oh, really?
And I said, what? Like, I was blown away. I couldn't believe that he said that. So he may as well had opened my back up and put a battery in it and said, go build this company for me. Because in 14 years, if there's no company, then we got a problem. So that's, for me, that's what motivates me every day. I get up every day thinking about that statement that he made and how I have to build a company for him. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So stay tuned with us. We're going to continue our conversation with Ambassador Cappriccieo Scates here on the Dr. Sheila Show, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. You're tuned into the Dr. Sheila Show, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality. And we're going to continue our conversation with Ambassador Cappriccieo Scates about living life in perpetual motion. And you were telling us, you know, some key steps on how you were able to do it, and, you know, for our viewers who are perhaps going through some of the things that you have experienced or something totally different. They may need those pointers as to how to get life organized and how to get to the point where they can live life in a perpetual motion. Let me ask you this question. You know, as you proceed to, you know, go on and accomplish your goals and leave the business for your grandson to run later on, because you got a lot of time. You got some things you got to do. But leave the business to your grandson for him to run. As you encounter people who are perhaps having a difficult time themselves, I'm quite sure you run into them in your industry and everything that you do. How are you able to assist them or to kind of help them through the process, or to inspire them or encourage them to get to the point where they, you know, can perhaps get to a point where they can live life in a perpetual motion? How do you do that?
I think oftentimes it's easier said. Each person deals with things in their own account or in their own particular ways. But I think a lot of that is just by leading by example. And then just showing, you know, who you are, and being really being positive and staying positive and trying to keep a certain frequency or resonate at a certain frequency. I think once you tap in at a higher level, you just have to stay there. And then the people that are around you sort of pull up to that same place, I believe. So,
because you set the bar kind of high.
I attempt to. Absolutely.
Well, you have accomplished it. And that's a great thing, you know. And I think that you do it in a very, like I said before, a very humble way, that, you know, you're always very professional, and you set the bar, like you said, very high. So anybody in your presence is going to, if they're not already there, they're going to want to rise to the occasion.
Absolutely.
So I commend you on everything that you have done. As you mentioned earlier, you do have a book. I want to talk to you briefly about what inspired you to write the book, and kind of tell us a little bit more about what that book is about. And you have another book that is coming out. Tell us a little bit more about that as well.
Well, honestly, as I mentioned, I was really inspired writing the book by not probably a good thing, because I was looking to be famous. I figured that, I had worked with so many people, anyone from Michael Jackson to Meatloaf and everyone in between. And I figured I want some of those accolades. I want people to talk about me. So I'm going to write this book. It's going to be articulate. It's going to be succinct. And I'm going to talk about all the wonderful, great things about me. And I'm going to put it in there. And when you read it, you're going to tell me how good I am. And really what ended up happening, as I mentioned, people just kept telling me thank you. And so I learned that it was really not about me. It was about, again, something bigger, greater than myself. So really for me now, I'm trying, interestingly, the book sort of grew its own legs. And then we're now meeting back up because I get it now. And so we're coming to a place where we sort of have come full circle. My second book is called My Music, My Business. And it's just really sort of a continuation of the first book. The first book's 10 Steps to Successfully Managing Recording Artists. So being a music guy, that's sort of where my inclination is to talk about music and how to succeed in the music industry. So it's just another continuation of the first book for the most part.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that you definitely inspire me, and I know that all of our viewers listening in and watching can definitely be inspired as well from your story and all the things that you have accomplished and still accomplishing. You are definitely living your life in perpetual motion, and I encourage you to continue to do that. Absolutely. Can you kind of tell us as well, before we go, your contact information, a little bit more about your website, and if anyone wants to reach you, how they can reach you?
Okay, Cappriccieo.com, Cappriccieo.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything at Cappriccieo.
At Cappriccieo.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for being my guest here on the Dr. Sheila Show. And for all that are tuned in, thank you as well for watching the Dr. Sheila Show, where we believe that your thoughts become your reality.